Well, welcome here, Trojan family. We are here for another episode of the Conquest Call-In Show, the show where you guys are the stars of the show. Make sure you give us a call, number 888-977-4539. We're going to spend the next half hour here talking with you guys. If we get some phone calls, maybe we'll stand a little bit later. But I'm joined this week by Ryan Dyrud, the boss here at the LAFB. Just wanted to touch base with you, Ryan. And what are your initial thoughts of the first week of this spring ball?
Yeah, what's up, Tim? Thanks for having me on. Super pumped you are here and happy to be with you live. Yeah, just super pumped. But yeah, man, as this week, it's been, this whole month, and I've talked about it a bunch, it feels so different than it was just a year ago in terms of the recruiting, not just the momentum, but just the practical ways in which they're doing things, the synergy, the strategy. It all just feels completely different than last year. Like last year, obviously there were some big gets in March and early on, and it was like, oh, look at this. But there never felt like those were guys that were here to stay. And then obviously we saw the decommits and stuff later happen. And so we'll get into it and talk all that. But yeah, just kind of fired up. You got to still win games on the field, but this definitely feels like a program that is way different than it was 365.
Yeah, the whole from the coaching staff shift move even last season into the off season this year. We've talked about the Chad Bowden effect, which has really been happening here. And you're seeing a lot of what he built as a process, right? Coming to fruition. And there was something about being a local recruiting that was missing from USC that now appears to be just something special. It just seems like you and I were just talking about today offline, the fact that USC is either in it for leading or in the hunt for about 15 of the top 20 guys in California, maybe even a little more than that, and to see this swing in recruiting, USC right now, if you look at the 24/7 rankings, USC is at this point better off than they were finishing last year. Matter of fact, they probably would, if they stopped right now with what they have, they would have about the number 13, 12 class in the country, just fractions of a point behind Notre Dame. If they were not to get another recruit based on the numbers they're at right now. And we know, Ryan, that number is going to go up a lot more over the next 5 to 7 months.
Yeah, no. What do you think of? So there's been a lot of talk that the number they're pushing for is 30 to 35 commitments in this class. I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you, obviously, I think we both like that strategy based on Chad Bowden saying all the time they're gonna major in high school and minor in the transfer portal. So obviously they're building the foundation with that versus what they've kind of done in years past. But we haven't really talked about that, I guess. What's just the sheer volume? I think this 25 class finished with 20 or 21. So you're looking at 10 to 15 more than that. That's going to add competition, but then that's going to obviously change things in the portal as well, because even in this day of NIL, like, yes, USC's NIL is in a really good spot now, much better than it was, but there's still only so much money to go around. So if you're allocating money for 35 recruits, then that's going to change things in the transfer portal, which I think is better off in terms of development. But like, what's your thoughts on kind of that process, I guess?
Well, I think we saw it with when you saw an Ohio State play Oregon, right? The program is built internally, and you have a bunch of guys. You pay those guys to come back, or with a Michigan, where you that retention, and that's something that Chad Bowden said on Trojans Live on Monday. That they're all about the retention. You build these guys up, you keep them. Sure, you want to supplement your roster with the transfer portal, but I think you're seeing this big shift, and we're seeing it in the linemen in the trenches. And we'll talk about what Riley said at practice. I asked him a question, and he talked about the trenches. But remember, this seasons aren't 12 games, 13 games anymore. If you want to run this thing all the way and win a national championship, you're looking at a solid, almost like an NFL schedule. So you're going to need to have that depth on your lines. And I do like the strategy. I do like the fact they're going to build it up. You see them going for the top name recruits. We're seeing a lot of those 4- and 5-star guys, high 4-star guys, top 100 players. But we're also seeing those mortar guys, right? Those glue guys that you could see with the size that they're kind of taking a flyer on. and they're seeing the upside, and you know that they're evaluating. But the question is going to be, and this is what I like you just said. How, I mean, I know that the House of Victory is doing really good right now, but how much? I mean, do they have infinite amount of money? Because they have a very solid roster with a number of stars on it right now. You're trying to bring in 30 guys, and on top of that, retaining and keeping your guys happy. It's going to be a balancing act, but I think we have the right staff in place to do that in front office.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest challenge, right? That these programs, not just USC, face is, you're going to have incoming recruits making substantially more than sophomores, juniors, and even seniors. And what's the dynamic that adds? And, I know, I won't say it here, but I know some of the guys coming back last year were making versus what the recruiting class was making. And you just wonder what that's going to do. Like, oh, wow, this kid's never even stepped on campus yet, and he's making quadruple mine. So not to turn it into NIL talk or whatnot, but that's just one of the, I think, challenges, especially when you're allocating that much for a recruiting class, is how do you have enough to then keep and retain, so you're not just going through this cycle every single year and spinning. And I think that was part of the interview process with Chad Bowden, obviously, is like, he's going to be the one manning that front, so Lincoln Riley and his staff can simply recruit and coach and not worry about the NIL portion. And so I'm sure Bowden had a very contingent plan on his hiring of like, this is how we do that. And that is what USC was so clearly lacking for the 3 years prior, with the staff they had in place that was not a true general manager, director of scouting, whatever you want to call it, type role. It was more of what he is now, a chief of staff. And so obviously I think Chad Bowden knows that, but I would love to have that conversation with him. Just like, so how do you work the books here, right? Like, how do you Tony Pastors from the Rams kind of move all this money around to really make it work? And there's no salary cap, but there is a limited amount of funding that you actually do have when you're talking about a 50, 60, 70, 80 man roster. So that's going to be the interesting part, but I love where they're at right now, obviously.
Well, remember also they have that new roster limit, so they can go well above the old 85 number as far as recruiting is concerned. I do like the fact that while I said that they're going to take flyers on, I'm saying that lightly. I mean, we're still talking. People don't realize three-star athletes are not just chopped liver. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of it has to do with their measurables, where they are at this point, as a junior in high school, and they're making evaluations on these guys and how they're going to mature. We've seen guys like, think about Clay Matthews when he came to USC. He just bloomed up, right? He came in undersized. Some guys are late bloomers, but you have a guy like Dre Brown, who is an expert evaluator, going out there in the bricks and bringing in these guys. I'm really excited about. Who's to be that guy right now, and there's no way for us to know, but who's that guy right now on the roster, and who's that guy in this next upcoming recruiting class that's going to be that guy that comes out of nowhere? Because it just seems like USC always has that guy that comes in unheralded, and then within 1 to 3 years, he's starting, and we're talking about NFL for him. So I'm betting on what they got going on, the recruiting, the staff, and the evaluations being made by this new system. Really, I mean, I'm wondering, one question I got to remember to ask is so how much the evaluation now is going to be done by the coaches? Mm-hmm. Is this going to free them up a lot of time for them to be working, basically on the season and getting those game plans together, instead of having to worry, getting the guys ready up to speed for fall practice and then into the season. So I'm excited about the new way that college football is being run, because now finally, Ryan, USC has decided to join the big leagues and start, actually having a program like an Ohio State, like an Alabama, where it's run like a professional business, not just, kind of playing catch up all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what it felt like the last kind of few years is, you still have the name brand that it is USC. Whatever anyone thinks about Lincoln Riley, he is a good recruiter and a good coach. We need to see it all put together for 4 quarters, obviously, but they had that going for them. But then it just felt like they were basically just holding on for dear life to keep everything, because all the behind the scenes stuff wasn't quite where the Ohio States, the Oregons, the Alabamas were. And so, it's still early, but it certainly feels like we are in that spot. And it just shows with where this class is. And it shows with, I'm sure we'll talk about it now, the 2 commitments that came in just yesterday and today, and Tomuhini Topui officially flipping from Oregon, modern day kid who could end up being, based on people I've talked to around the area, like the #1 interior defensive lineman. His ranking is kind of all over the place right now, but just Trinity League Player of the Year, I believe, just dominant in the best league in high school football. And then, Kohen Brown today? Just commits, wide receiver out of Texas, who's like a 4. I don't have it right in front of me, but like crazy speed, 4.3 something 40 time, has a great 100-meter dash time, and but big enough, 6 foot, almost 200, where he's not just some little tweener that can only play kind of in the slot, so can move them all around. So just the continued aggression they're being on the recruiting trail, but then also the type of players they're getting just shows kind of what this front office has changed.
Yeah. The issue had always been, we talked about all the time that, up north, all they were doing was buying players. But if you talk to parents, they would talk to you about how it was run as well. The relentless recruiting, the synergy they had within the program, how the thing was run was on a different level. Division Street was run by a bunch of, my understanding was a bunch of Nike executive retired, I don't know, or no longer working, but they were basically run like a corporation. And where USC was putting on poor Dave Emmerich about 45 different hats that guy was trying to wear. Whereas look at, here's another good thing for you, Ryan. Look at how many people have replaced Dave Emmerich now with what he was doing. There must be a staff of like what 8, 9 people now, which was, we were giving one person to do that job. So all the people were freaking out before. This is what it's supposed to look like. A general manager is not supposed to run all this stuff. A general manager has a staff where he's able to, delegate stuff out to people. And then also another thing I heard from parents was that what they do up at was that they had these relentless recruiters. Mm-hmm. They had these guys. Yes, we had a lot of developers on the team last year and going back, but we didn't have like a Chad Savage. We didn't have a Travon Reed. These guys are just recruiters, and so Coach Dog now and the support staff is just killing it, right? Just absolutely killing it. His fingerprints are all over some of the biggest recruits that USC has. So,
well, you remember, not to cut you off, but you remember when Hayden Lowe flipped to Miami,
right?
What was he, Oaks Christian, or I know he was a local kid. When he flipped, and he got, let's be real, he got offered a bigger NIL package. But one of the things he said, maybe it was just an excuse to not come out and say, oh, I got offered money. But one of the things he said is he felt like he wasn't as wanted, like he wasn't getting hit up all the time anymore. And, like it or love it, these kids want to be felt wanted. And so that was one of the things last year was lacking, like you're alluding to. There wasn't just that relentless, like texting, calling, whatever, every single day. And so it led to one of the top recruits of the class flipping to Miami. And so I don't think you're going to have that problem anymore because you just have more people doing it. There's just more people that have hands that can be on phones and whatnot. But the approach, I think, is a lot different too. So, and just piggybacking what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't want to think about Miami right now. Like I said, I think a key to, no pun intended, for this class is going to be getting onto the offensive side of the ball. I do like some of the pickups that USC has, but I feel like we need that offensive tackle. That it's been a long time since we've had some great 4-star prospects. 2 years in a row now, 2 recruiting classes in a row that have rolled in, and they're going to develop into great players. But the USC has not yet really landed that marquee top 50 offensive tackle that's just sure you can probably maybe even plug him in as a freshman. And I'm just dying to see Kenai Pepe and see what his story is. I know that he's at IMG right now, correct? I wish he was still at Bosco. That would be great for a bunch of reasons for me. But having him start in California would have been great. But it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle for Kenai. And I just want to make sure, that USC's NIL is in place and they're hitting with the big boys. Because I think they are going to battle. I think that they can battle for those. It's definitely showing that Oregon cannot come in here to Southern California anymore and just pluck out whoever they want, which was happening for a while there. SC you'd hear about it up all the way into December. USC, no, we got this guy. And at the last minute, they make a visit up to, we have a tackle, make a last minute, 11 o'clock hour visit up to Eugene. And all of a sudden now he's going to be a Duck. And I can't tell you, some of these guys, the difference they would have made, especially in that run that USC had in the first year of Caleb Williams when Riley first got here. We had a great line, but then it just fell off the next year because we lost that line and it just fell apart. And then so we basically wasted Caleb's second season. If those guys had been in place, if we were able to hold on to some of those offensive linemen, it would have been a completely different story, you guys.
Yeah. Here's a random, not really random, but just more high school. I'm just curious your thoughts, because I've always wondered this. Like if you're a Trinity League player, because you mentioned Pepe and he went to Bosco. If you're a Trinity League player, and I could be, were you gonna say something?
No, just saying, phone number, you guys, 889-97-45. I can talk to Ryan all night. We talk all day, and we've talked on the phone for a while before. So we do this all the time. If you guys want to get in, this is your show. Give us a call. Let us know what you want to talk about. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, please. No, please. Absolutely call in. So, but no, if you're a Trinity League player, I don't, and again, I could be naive and just not know, but I don't, like, do you know the upside of going to IMG? Like, I get if you're at a public school and you get offered like this amazing free tuition to go down there, and they obviously have the facilities. But if you're in the Trinity League already, like, that's better football than what IMG's putting out there. I mean, look at Mater Dei and what Bosco have done. Obviously there's a reason for it. I would just always be curious, like, why leave to go to IMG?
Yeah, I know that would actually be a great question for the family. I don't know. I'm sure there was a very well thought out reason for them to go across the country like that. But I personally don't know, because one thing we do know, and Chad, I think it was really, he worded it very carefully. What he said is they play the best football here in Southern California. He didn't necessarily, and now I think we have great players, and I'm not gonna cut that short. But what he did say, hey, caller, hang on one second. What we did say is we have the best. They play the best football out here. I think I can't remember the exact quote. He stopped short of saying we have the best football players here, and I do believe we have the best football players here. But they're coached up really well. You know, it's the development at St. John. There's a reason why the Mater Dei guys and the Bosco guys do so well. Yes, they attract great talent, but they're developed at those schools, and they learn a high football IQ, so that they can go off and be productive in college and showcase.
Hold on, Dad.
I'm not sure exactly what it would be. So I don't. I caller.
Yeah.
Hold on one second, caller. So we'll see. We'll see if we can hang on a bit. It was a little bit of a hit when he goes across the country, and heck, like you said, it'd been a lot nicer if he was playing here in Trinity League. It was right in our backyard. But I'm pretty sure that Miami and Cristobal's got a lot of people, and Cristobal's an offensive line coach at heart too. So I mean, there's a reason why that he draws when he was up in Oregon, and now he's over in Miami. That those guys, there've been a couple of guys that USC has lost to Miami over the years.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and then we'll get to the caller, but hopefully it'll work like Chris Henry Jr., who's an Ohio State kid, came over to Mater Dei, but stayed true to going to Ohio State. Maybe we'll have that luck with Pepe.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, hi, caller. Well, thank you so much, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Kev from SoCal. Love the show. Love the format. Want to know if we have anybody on our radar, or it's even close to radar, for wearing 55 for next couple of seasons. That's all I got. I'll do it online. Thanks.
Was one person comes right to mind right away, and Ryan, I'll let you go ahead and
no, you start, please. You start. Thanks for the call. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Xavier Griffin is a linebacker. Now, I don't know if they're going to hand people 55s walking in the door, but he is a highly touted linebacker that's going to come in from Georgia, and he's like a top 10 national guy. He's like the number one linebacker really in the country, and I'm just curious that that discussion I'm sure has to be made, but at some point though, Ryan. So that's the person I would throw off my head just right off the bat. For who might be that 55 that's coming in. That's maybe not already on the roster. I think that you're going to need to really earn that, and it just seems like though they're waiting so long on it that it's almost not even becoming a thing anymore. I mean, I am. I'll always see Junior Seau on 55, right? Chris Claiborne. I'll see that 55, that double nickel on guys, and I get it, but it's been so long since we've seen it. Any ideas for you, Ryan?
Yeah, So I think this is just my opinion. I don't have any source on this, but I think based on this transition we've seen in the program, based on Chad Bowen and his staff, and just kind of based on the rhetoric that everyone's talking about, like the legacy of the USC, the place to be, bringing guys back into practice all the time, I feel like we will see the 55 back. Maybe not this season, but in this next kind of 2-3 years. And, a guy that's on the roster right now that, the question is too, like, how late do you give someone? Like, do you want them to have it for like the entirety of their collegiate career? Is it just going to be a 1-year thing? But I think Desmond Stevens is certainly a guy we can talk about that got playing time as a freshman last year. Obviously had the interception, got some good PT, and is going to be a viable starter this year as a true sophomore and a real good player. So I think he's someone to at least talk about. I think in this 25 class, you look at Matai Tagoa. I always say his name wrong, his last name, but
Taguai.
Thank you. Much better. Out of San Clemente. Again, I want to see his body size and frame get a little bigger for the collegiate level. He's definitely a little small for a college linebacker, but has tremendous sideline speed. Love that he's a local kid. Because I think there's a lot of conversation too that this shouldn't matter, but people will talk about it. Like, oh, should the 55 be an LA kid? Or do you give it like, because I think Xavier Griffin is the home run obvious one. Like, he's the number one linebacker in the country coming here, fired up to be an SC from Alabama, originally now at Georgia. So I think he's a definite one. The other one I'll throw out that he hasn't committed yet, but if Talanoa Ely commits, guy that went to Orange Lutheran, now he's back at Hawaii, there's another one to kind of look at. So basically I'm throwing 4 names out because I think there's definitely optionality. And I do think we see the 55 back finally. Because what's it been, Tim? 12 years?
It's been a while. It's been longer than that. It's been longer than 12. Wait, hold on. It's been longer than that.
I'm drawing a blank, and you know better, but there was the last one, and I don't mean any disrespect, but it wasn't a very memorable one. Obviously Keith Rivers was like the last kind of real memorable one, but there was someone after him. But I can't remember.
They had Steele, but that goes back a little farther as well. Yeah, that's a good question for the chat, you guys. Who was the last 55? Because it does seem like you have to be a Southern California guy. No matter who we name wearing that jersey, it has been a guy from Southern California. So yeah. I think it has to. You either use it or you lose it, don't you? I mean, at some point, Ryan, because like if you're talking over what we know for a fact, it's been over a decade, and it's been shelved. And I get it; it's a very special number, but at the same time, you know, it's almost like these recruits will be like, "What's 55?" And at one point, though, wearing that 55 at USC was what every recruit dreamed of. Well, if you lay that thing dormant too long, it may lose the shine. I mean, not to us Trojans. It could never. I mean, you could wait 1,000 years; it would still be very special to me. But I'm talking about just the general public perception, right? The person that's maybe a casual SC fan, or maybe someone that just is a recruit that's really liking what they're doing, you know, what Lynn's system is, and wants to play for Rob Ryan, but they don't remember who Chris Claiborne, you know, a Buckus Award winner. They don't really remember him. They know he's coaching, but that's probably about all they know. Yeah.
So I checked, and Lamar Dawson was the last 55 in 2014, and he's out of Kentucky. And as we just saw from the chat, Keith Rivers from Florida lives in, I think he's stayed in LA now. Keith Rivers, I've met him. Awesome guy, super nice guy. So yeah, I don't think it has to be an LA guy. I think it makes it that much even more meaningful and impactful when you think of like, you know, Junior Seau and whatever being from Oceanside and whatnot. But yeah, it's got to happen, man. I mean, a decade, too long. Because you think like the other schools, and I know there's more that I'm forgetting, but Penn State has one, right? Like their edge rusher, they wear like 9 or 8 or some significant number, some single digit number, but they seemingly kind of replace it almost every single season. Like when the guy then moves on, I think Abdul Carter was the last one to wear it this year. Like they'll probably have one next year. And I agree that SC, it can't just be anyone, but yeah, 11 years, got to bring it back.
I mean, are they waiting for someone to win have maybe
11? Thank you.
Being a returning All-American or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the criteria is, but yeah, at some point we need. But let's face it. We should have put it on Sua Cravens. Matter of fact, that's what we should have put it on. That guy to me, even wasn't a true linebacker. You know, he was like that tweener, right? He was a safety / linebacker. You know, but he played up in the box as tough as anybody I've seen. So, I mean, he come crushing guys in the backfield and hitting the hole. So, I mean, there was something special there. I mean, I don't know what they are waiting for, but, you know, he would have been a guy as a lifelong SC fan, I would have loved to seen Sua wearing 55 because I think he would have worn it well. So, I mean, and he did. He showed out and he was impressive on the field. But what are they with for? Maybe he didn't want the 55. I doubt that. I bet you he did. I don't know. But, So let's either use it. Let's use it. I would love to see some of these young guys get.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Tim. Put you on this. Of those four, Desmond Stevens, Matai, Xavier Griffin, or we can't even say Ely. He's not committed. So of those three, what's your best odds of those three?
Oh no. I mean, well, let's put it this way. Three of the four haven't stepped up. I love all those recruits, but I saw what Desmond Stevens did last year, and I'll tell you what, the way I love the coverage skills that both. Can you imagine if they both drop? Can you imagine a quarterback they're going to cover so much ground at that second level that it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing if anyone can get a completion over the middle with those guys.
What about this? Do you give it to Gentry for one season?
I think he could be, so here's your criteria for me.
Passionate dude.
Can they be an All-American? Gentry can absolutely make an All-American run this year. He's dynamic. We saw what happened to the defense last year. As soon as he went down, completely changed. I mean, really, him causing havoc in the backfield allowed other guys to get up in the backfield and cause issues. As soon as he went down, all of a sudden we had a pass rush issue, and we started seeing late in games getting picked apart. So I would absolutely, I'd be on it. I'd hop on the Gentry train for a 55. Sure. Is it going to happen? I highly doubt it. Yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't have a fit. What do you guys think of the chat? Do you guys think would you like to see Eric Gentry with the 55 this year? How about you, Ryan? What do you think? My answer is yes.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't decide, like, if Desmond Stevens is still a year away or whatever, and just a way to bring it back. I mean, Gentry's a guy that is passionate about this program. He's vocal. He's fired up. I don't know. The body frame would look a little odd in 55 with that tall, lanky frame of his, but we definitely saw how important he is to the defense. I mean, he was the heartbeat of that defense, and it was a huge loss when he went down with injury. So I'd be kind of for it.
Absolutely. Kristen, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Long time. You can see him. You can see Kristen on everybody's. I mean, he gets around and he's a knowledgeable football fan. But thank you so much. Yes, back from vacation. Well, it's been a crazy couple of months, but I'm back in the saddle. You guys remember every Wednesday night, 6:00. Wait for you guys' phone calls. Thank you so much, Kevin from Southern California. That was a great call. Give us a call, 888-997-4539. This is your show. Maybe we get this guy to call in. You guys, if you haven't checked out Preston's work over Preston's Paradise, he's cranking out videos all the time. Great content, Preston. Keep it going.
Love that. Great stuff. So many great content creators in the USC community.
Yeah, I bring it up all the time. When I was younger, when I was in college, you could probably hear like a 10-minute spot maybe, or a 5-minute spot every night on Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, right? You could probably get a little tidbit during the season, or maybe even like during spring ball, a little tidbit, but that would be it. It was basically that. You would have the Times or the Register just tearing and ripping SC, and then you would probably, the Press Telegram was probably the most balanced. Press Telegram was probably the most balanced coverage for USC. I used to love, and they were the really ones talk about recruiting. You guys, we didn't have 247 Rivals and On 3 and ESPN. I don't even talk about them, but I mean, we didn't have those, when I back in my day, kids. So I mean, you guys are so lucky. The coverage that you guys get and everything you see, here on LAFB and all the other major networks out there, it wasn't always like that. And a lot of you guys older up there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, seeing stuff like Preston puts out, and you see Gabe always putting stuff out, and then Twitter. Twitter in itself is just like, can you imagine back in the late 90s, early 2000s, having Twitter flying? It would have been so nice during the Carroll run to have those Twitter conversations.
Oh man,
a lot less trolls. I guarantee you guys, that would have been popping off in your DMs back when Pete Carroll was manning the sidelines.
So Tim, this just broke from Mike Roach of 247. Amarian Peterson, running back, plans to enter the transfer portal in the spring window. Does that surprise you?
No, not really. I think maybe. I mean, great guy.
I'm surprised it didn't happen already, to be honest.
He's just too talented to sit buried, on the depth chart. I really like what he's brought. He's always had a good attitude at practice and stuff. And so, I mean, he's a good team player and he's talented. I mean, he can play. It just seems like, with Riley, there's always they've brought in that guy, it started with, you have a Travis Dye, right? It's gonna be kind of hard. You have Austin Jones, and then, and just down the line, every year you bring in a quality running back that's gonna get you 1,000 yards ish, and be a great receiver out of the backfield. Just seemed like Amarian could just not get his momentum going enough to earn those reps. And, I wish him the best. I absolutely hope he goes and kills it somewhere else, because I know he's talented. I know there's a place for him on a team. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. I'm surprised it didn't happen during the winter portal, to be honest, but then they didn't have the two incoming guys, so maybe that was his thought process. But I'm sure many will say, well, oh, look, both the two top backs from the 23 class are both gone. But they brought in 3 in this 25 class. You have Brian Jackson, who should be a heavy feature, and the two guys they brought in, the JUCO kid and Eli Sanders out of New Mexico. So yeah, they're, it's part of this is part of the game, and this is the reason. The good part of the transfer portal, a guy that just can't get on the field now can go seek another opportunity. It's not the negative and just chasing dollars. Like, I think it's more of like, hey, this guy he's using eligibility up, go get some playing time somewhere, because he's just buried in the depth chart. So always bummed to see a Trojan go, but not surprising. And definitely, I don't think it's a bad on either side.
Yeah. Best of luck to you, Mr. Peterson. Go kill it wherever you go. I'm sure I know he will. I absolutely know. I know he will.
Remember, I don't know if you were probably there. You're at everything. The spring game was, I'm trying to think back. Was he was in Riley's first recruiting class or second?
I think it was his first recruiting class.
Or maybe it might've been second, because Riley's first.
So 2021. I don't count that. The one he just came in and threw together. Yeah. I mean, his first full recruiting class. Right.
Yeah. So it was his first full recruiting class. So then that spring game, I remember seeing him with the other backs that came in, and it was like, you could tell they were both freshman backs were talented. It's like, damn, these dudes are good, have some talent. And then obviously just the way things have transpired. So the kid can play. I mean, he's going to land somewhere pretty quickly, I bet.
Yeah. I think he had that spin move. And if I remember right, it was Quentin Joyner, or it was him. One of them was one of the freshmen made that spin move and then busted it outside and got pretty damn close to scoring a touchdown. I don't know if that was Joyner or Peterson, but I'm glad he got into that game, and he got was it Nebraska? I can't remember. He dove in for that touchdown. He went completely horizontal and got in for the touchdown. I think that was Nebraska. I'm not sure.
May have been.
But, yeah.
But the key is just keeping Brian Jackson happy. That guy's legit. So that's the guy that you want to make sure, because he's only going to be a sophomore. So
yeah, it's going to be fun to watch the speed. Eli Sanders, watching his film, just breaking ankles and breaking angles with his speed. I mean, just flat out crazy speed. And then Waymon Jordan. I mean, that guy.
Yeah.
He's basically he's not a very big guy, he's but he's stout, and he's got that lower body, you know what I mean? Just that lower body, he's gonna be tough to take down. He's gonna hide between the tackles, squirt out, and he reminds me a little bit of Quiz Rogers a little bit. You remember him from Oregon State?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm really excited to see what he can do. And then I think sky's the limit with young Mr. Jackson. I think that he's gonna. That his coming out party was that Notre Dame game, but I really can see him just absolutely tearing it up here at USC. The Waymon Jordan after practice was talking about, they were talking about, he was talking about Brian Jackson. I can't believe that he's that young. That's what he said. This person, he says, I couldn't believe it. He's like a true sophomore. You know? So that's some high praise from the young man.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jordan, I think it's going to be, as you mentioned, these JUCO kids, they get kind of forgotten about, but I'm not at all comparing, but Cam Newton was a JUCO kid and ended up winning the Heisman of the national championship. Obviously at a different position at quarterback, but so those JUCO kids can certainly surprise people because the talent's there. So I think I've always said, I don't think receiver, running back, and typically quarterback you're ever going to have to worry about on a Lincoln Riley team. Now there's other positions that we can talk about that haven't been great in the past, but I think the skill positions should never be a concern.
Yeah, let's get that. We got our call that came in, but I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the joke I had when I was talking to someone about how now Riley doesn't care about offense. We'll talk about it in a minute. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Laguna Niguel, California.
And your name, sir?
Tyson.
Tyson?
Yeah.
Hi, Tyson. What's on your mind? Hi.
Well, I was just wondering if you guys could compare when Coach Carroll came in after his first couple of years. It took him, 1 or 2 seasons to get started. What do you think is the fundamental challenges that Lincoln Riley has had? Is it because it's happened at the same time of the transfer portal and NIL? What's your thoughts about that?
Great question.
Great question. Yeah.
So I've always hit this with this way. I don't think people realize that all the change that happened when this time frame in college football, it's not like it was even 6 years ago, 7, 8 years, 20 years ago. It's really not even the same kind of in recruiting on the field. There's so much different about college football now compared to when we talk about when Pete Carroll came in here and turned it around. Yes, there's lots of opportunities, but I don't think people either selective memory or not, especially in the national media. I mean, I get it. Those guys, Ryan, do you agree? They know better. The way they're talking, a lot of these big national talking heads are saying, well, Lincoln Riley, I don't know. He's not even a top 25. Literally just people saying he's not even a top 25 coach. I mean, it's just embarrassing the way that they talk about it. Lincoln Riley came into a complete dumpster fire. Anybody that's been on any message board at USC for the past 10 years realizes that USC spent about 4 or 5 years trying to dig out of those draconian sanctions that the NCAA gave them. And then they decided to follow that up by, we really can't blame anyone for what happened to Steve Sarkisian. God bless him. Thank God he's better now, but no one really truly could foresee that what happened there because, yes, the right was on the wall. But Steve Sarkisian came in, that kind of started the issue. And then they followed up with the Lane Kiffin and then the extension of Lane Kiffin. And it just seemed like USC was just sanctioning itself at that point. Mm-hmm. Riley comes in, made one massive mistake that he can never lay it down. That was bringing Grinch with him. That's going to be that. But he corrected that. The problem was USC's been behind as far as we just talked about it. The infrastructure, right? With the recruiting staff and the professional system really that had up there Division Street, places like Ohio State and Miami. Places like Tennessee that were really skirting that rule about, remember the beginning of NIL, you couldn't be an inducement to come to your school. USC literally was not giving these guys NIL until they got onto the campus. Other schools were offering them NIL packages, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, months in advance, locking people up, paying parents, and then handing people cash and you get a slap on the wrist. To look at the whole thing and how Riley started.
I wonder.
Well, let me finish up really quick. To wrap it up is I think that when Riley came in here, I don't think people remember that year he won 11 games with Caleb and that great offensive line and just guys playing out of their minds. I think that shouldn't be a talking point where USC is going down. That should be a testament to what Lincoln Riley could do with what he had. He had bubble gum and string and he MacGyvered that thing together and made a team that won 11 games. That was no small feat. And then it was definitely because of the talent they had. But then they just dropped off. There was nothing in the cupboard. And so when it went to empty like that, people don't realize that USC did not have its NIL together, did not have the infrastructure, was not recruiting like everybody else. And so now I think you're going to see what Lincoln Riley could do here at USC.
My next question is, given that Andrew Luck is the GM over at Stanford and fired their head coach, do you think that this is an era where GMs are going to have a lot more firepower as opposed to the AD? What's your feeling about that?
Go ahead, Ryan. I took up all the oxygen a minute ago. I need a breather.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting question. I think obviously, in my opinion, and I haven't spoken to anyone specifically, but I think that will be kind of decided on a school by school, program by program, contract by contract basis. I still think for some of the programs or at least where USC is now, but when you look at Ohio State, when you look at Texas, when you look at Miami, Georgia, the head coach will still be like the end all be all. Like no GM is going to overrule Kirby Smart in Georgia. No one's going to overrule, Ryan Day in Ohio State. Stanford's a different situation because obviously, it's not a perennial football powerhouse, and Andrew Luck is one of the most prestigious alumni ever there. So I think they brought him in telling him like, you have full control to do whatever you want, whereas other programs aren't going to necessarily do that. So I do think we'll see more of that for some. To your question, I don't know if you were alluding to USC. I think Chad Bowden certainly has a good amount of power. I don't think at the end of the day it would be his call to move on from a coach, but he'll certainly have a say in that process, and talking with Jen Cohen and whatnot, who makes the ultimate decision. I bet. That's just my thought.
Yeah, well, it's like front office is operating now for everybody. All right, guys, well, enjoy your show. So, right on.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, Tyson, great call. Thank you so much. Yeah. That's 2 in the books. That's good. Hey, listen, we're getting better here. We'll catch traction. It's the off season, and people warming up. Listen, you guys, remember that the idea here is you can call in. You can have a big conversation. It's perfect, actually. We had Kevin call in, just ask a question and listen to us offline, or you can come in and have a conversation. It's truly up to you guys. This is your guys' show. That's how I modeled the show. That's how it's always been, where you guys come in and you guys talk about whatever you want to talk about. So phone number's right there, 888-99-RILEY, 888-997-4539. We're going to be on here probably for a little bit longer.
Love it.
I know I had to pull Ryan away, but no,
I'm glad. I the first time doing the actual call-in show. This is great. Quickly, and I don't want to belabor it, but just to go back to his first question about like Pete Carroll, and I think 2 things that I'll just add to that, because I think you said it great. But what made Pete Carroll so special that will never be emulated ever again, like that's what's so hard when people want to compare to the Pete years, it'll just never happen again, is you remember he was a NFL coach that came to the college ranks and made USC essentially an NFL program, in that he invited everyone, because NFL is so much more open with fans and disclosing things and, oh, come watch practice, watch training camp, whereas college has always been, and even till to this day, is very closed off. And there's just certain events that are for fans. Pete Carroll was like, oh, I was in the NFL. Like, we're going to run it like that. We're inviting everyone on. And it made USC, which is what USC is calling it now, the place to be, right? Like USC was the place to be back in the Pete Carroll era, because it was so different than every other college program in the entire country. So that will never be emulated. And then just quickly on the Lincoln Riley thing, because I don't need to add more than what you said. The one thing that I'll just add to it is when he was hired by Mike Bone and, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his name now, the chief of staff back then that now is with Washington, Brandon Sosna. When he was hired by them, there was obviously promises made by them and certain stipulations that he was going to be getting. Well, then 10 months later, Bones, he resigned, but essentially fired. Sosna leaves to Detroit to go to the NFL. So the infrastructure that hired him, that gave him all these promises, all of a sudden are gone. They're on a full search to find a new AD. And Jen Cohen, I think, was a fantastic hire. She's been great, but it's still going to change things. It's going to set things back because now she has to get caught up to speed. She has to be putting in her own implementations and whatnot. So I think that doesn't get talked about enough. But the whole Sosna departure very quickly into the Riley tenure set things back a lot, because I'm sure the GM hire maybe would have been a lot quicker had you had your AD in place for longer than, Jen Cohen just coming in and getting caught up to speed. So I think that alone set things back substantially more than maybe they should have. And Riley is fault for some of the other stuff, but I just, one little piece there about them leaving, I think is a bigger deal than people talk about.
And it hasn't been seamless. All right. Riley needs to, he knows, everyone knows there were some mistakes made. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is the situation he came into. Yeah. I literally have a lot of respect. There's a couple podcasts that I just love, and I still love the guys on it. And I know what they're doing. They're literally crapping themselves. I think some of these guys are actually seeing, hypothetically, like one of them's a North Carolina fan. The other guy is a Florida. The two of them are Florida State fans, and the other guy is an Illinois fan. If you guys know that podcast, I'm not going to say the name because I'm pissed off at them. But the way they talk about Lincoln Riley sometimes, these are all brilliant guys. I mean, okay, I'll stop short of brilliant. They're really smart college guys. And then the way they talk about, like, they've forgotten what Riley did, dismissed the fact that, you know, it seemed like he inherited this Oklahoma program that was just killing it. It wasn't until his offense started killing it. Yes, Bob Stoops is a legend. Bob Stoops is an amazing coach, right? But the problem was he had his brother there, Mike Stoops, running the defense, which was a mess. That's a whole other situation. But it was really Lincoln Riley that gave him that second wind, you know, in those years and that runs that they had. And I think that people forgot, and it was seamless. And there's a reason why a guy like Bob Stoops loves the man loves Oklahoma, and so he stepped aside to give Lincoln Riley that job because he didn't want to see Lincoln get away, because he knew how special Lincoln was. So when a Bob Stoops knows that much football and is willing to leave the job he loves and so they can make sure that the university he loves has the best coach in place to take over and continue it before they lose him to some other school, because he knew he'd lose him to some other school. That means something. And the fact that even if he had it handed to him and he did well, that means something as well. And I think part of the reason what people forget about, but the recruiting went down and their win count went down. Well, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why Lincoln Riley left, because he felt, I'm not being supported. What did he talk about? I want to have the facilities. I want to upgrade the facilities. I want to have the support staff and the recruiting staff that all these we just talked about, like the Oregons and the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias. I want to have these things. And they were kind of doing what they did to Pete Carroll for so many years. Well, win the championship, and then we can do this stuff, and kind of slow playing him. And he finally said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go to USC where they're going to give you all that stuff and more. Mm-hmm. And that's what he did. And so it's been really
Oklahoma hasn't been very good since he left, by the way.
Yeah, right. Newsflash. And so, but what I'm really disappointed is again, there's a number of them. There's the other guy, there's Mr. Clean, with the white t-shirt, sits there and he gives like these backhanded compliments to him all the time, but just makes these comments that we know are ridiculous. When they talk about like Heifel and stuff like that, and they say, well, look what he's doing there. And they put him ahead of Lincoln Riley. Again, didn't they just get busted for breaking all the rules? And they said, we'll take you to court and say, too bad. Yeah, we broke the rules, but we're not going to be sanctioned. And then you give him credit for being a better coach. And at what point is it where, why is Lincoln Riley held accountable for the dysfunction that was here at USC when it came to NIL? I'm not saying cheat and go the full, allegedly what Tennessee was doing, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, USC was on the complete other end of that. And I get it. I get why USC is gun shy, because for some reason, if everyone breaks rules and USC does it, we're the ones who get hammered for it. Go figure that one. But not all coaching situations, not all programs are the same. They go, well, he's at USC. He's doing a lot better. Again, what did he inherit here at USC? And so we can only make so many excuses. It's put up or shut up time. I think now they're putting up, though. I think he has this facility every day, right, Ryan? When you go there, there's something else being built on those big old girders they have hanging over Brian Kennedy Field. And pretty soon they're going to have a state-of-the-art facility like they've always wanted. So I'm very excited at the potential for progress. We know what USC can do, and I think that's why people are scared. Ryan, I'm gonna bring up what I talked to you before the show about 2001. Please. I'm talking to all you old people like me. You guys remember 2001? USC turned it around. How they turned it around? They turned it around with defense, right? And they didn't win a lot of games. They were a 500 team, and they had losing to the Utes that year as well in the Vegas Bowl. But what my dad and I watched in the stands, game after game after game, were close losses. If you guys remember, close losses. Defense was keeping the team in the games, and they just didn't have the horses. I mean, yes, there were some great guys. There were Troy Palomalus out there, right? Yeah, there was there's Carson Palmer, there's Kareem Kelly, a very young freshman, Sean Cody. But in 2001, they just didn't have the roster, But that quickly changed. You have a great recruiting class. Last year, we bring in Danton Lynn. Defense keeps USC in a lot of games last year. Offense was absolutely struggling, but the defense stood up and really kept USC in a lot of games. Lost a lot of close games, kind of like 2001. Year 2, they start bringing in the players like they've done this year. USC roster-wise is getting better. The trenches are, Ryan, we were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The interior defensive line was the one of the biggest issues on the team last year. Was one of the biggest issues, especially late in games where USC couldn't hang on to those leads. That's not familiar, Trojans. Now all of a sudden, it's one of the strengths of this team.
Yeah.
That defensive line, and that especially the middle of that defensive line is going to be stout and deep and talented. And I'm telling you, that's going to pay dividends in the win column this year.
Huge.
And so if this could be a 2002, Ryan, where we come up short of a national championship, but at the end of the year, we could beat almost anybody. And I do think that will be the case. I think there's some tough games. You got a game you got a game over in South Bend. There's a bunch of difficult games. I was right. Illinois might even beat something. We'll see. We'll see about if they live up to the hype. Bielema's a great coach, but Bielema was a great coach. But we'll see if they can live up to that hype. But you're going to Champlain. It's going to be a rough slide. USC's got to find out how to win on the road. And I think they do that with this depth. And if they can, this could be our 2002. That means next year is going to be our 2003. We all know what happened in 2003.
Ooh, Tim's putting it out there.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I feel it. I feel it with the roster they're building, with this momentum. You guys, when they feel the juice at practice, these guys, they're having fun. They're loose. I used to sit there, and when Pete Carroll was there, and I used to read my finance book, my economics book, and I would sit there on the sidelines, and I was watching practice, but I was also studying for class, because that's how open the practice was. Anyone could just walk right there, and it was roped off, but you could sit there and you could watch the game, watch the practice. Yeah. So, I can't wait. It feels a lot like that.
It's Lincoln Riley gets a lot of criticism for, how he deals with the media and closed offness or whatever. But it's in reality, like, it's almost as open as it can kind of be for college, for the social media world where everyone can film everything. In terms of, they're always having new people on camp, not necessarily a ton of fans, but they're bringing people in all the time to make that like a celebrity, which is just fun for recruiting and for all the students. So, but I agree, Tim. It certainly feels like that. Like, last year was a tough year. Obviously, the losses to Minnesota and Maryland, we've all talked about them on USC content over and over. Those losses were brutal and inexcusable. But there was a lot of growth last year. And I think now this is the year they put it more together, and you get to, that 9-win category, or if you can push 10, that's a really successful year. And then 26, all of a sudden you're one of the top contenders for a natty. And because you have all the guys you got coming back, we'll see what the QB situation looks like with Husan Longstreet and these incoming freshmen in that year. And then all the 26 recruits, obviously. But yeah, and last thing I'll say on that is, you mentioned the defensive line. Like, we were talking off air before. This time last year, exactly a year ago, was when all the Bear Alexander drama was going on. He was going to transfer out. There was NIL issues, whatever. They ended up getting him to stay. So it was like, oh, big sigh of relief. Our best defensive players coming back, Bear. He ends up, obviously, we know, I don't have to detail it, ends up, leaving after the third week and redshirting. And, I don't think he had been great to that point, wasn't getting the playing time obviously he wanted or deserved, but there just was not then the depth, the D-line. Like, as much as I loved some of the guys on that D-line, and as well as a lot of them played, the Gavin Myers of the world, and how just hard and how they embodied what it meant to be a Trojan, they just weren't the body types, the talent level to compete at that level. It is, like you mentioned it, Tim, it's the deepest room on this entire team. Like, it is in just this, you look at this, the transfers over with Keyshawn Silver and Ja Jarrett. Between them, it's 700 pounds. Kobe Pepe is up to, what is he up to? Like 320 now or something?
330, 320.
Massive. And he's going to be a force that everyone's kind of forgetting about, but he's going to be a really good player. And then, Jakeem Stewart, I know, is just a freshman, but obviously we're hearing amazing things about him already. And you got, Cam Fountain coming back, and Anthony Lucas, who got hurt. He'll be back off the edge. And and I'm obviously forgetting a bunch of guys, but it's just, that room is now built for the Big Ten, because they have enough bodies where they're not playing like 3 guys all game. Like they're going to be able to rotate 7, 8 deep all game. So in the fourth quarter, they're just as fresh as they were in the first quarter. Because how many times do we see that against those big clutch games is the defensive line would play great early on and then just get blasted in that last of the game because they were just gassed. You're playing 3 guys all game. So I think it's going to be really fun to see just the rotation that they can have at the defensive line.
Hey, you forgot about Tompkins, Abasiri, Carlin Jones. We'll see what he can do. All these guys are looking thick and big and strong. And my guy, Ratmana Bulabulavu, I think he's going to come out there. And then the one guy that Riley talked about after practice when they say, hey, who's sticking out to you? And he said Floyd Boucard, who you guys remember, I was talking about it last fall. I think Boucard is he's just quick, man. He just has that twitch for a big guy, the way he moves. I think he's something special. He's late to football. I think he's from Canada, but I do think that guy, for Riley to single him out of all the newcomers, all the guys, he pretty much just said, yeah, I like what Floyd's doing. And that's, like you said, it's just so deep. So to go from remember when Rakes left, and then like you said, Rakes leaves, and Bear Alexander was threatening to leave, then ends up leaving, and then you got someone in the chat and tell me who was the kid who was like the redshirt freshman or sophomore that we were kind of expecting to evolve into a role at that Zero Tech. He took off. So really, we were looking to add 1 or 2 guys, and we ended up losing by midseason our 3 Zero Tech guys. You know what I mean? And we had guys in there that filled it admirably, but were completely undersized. And again, we saw it late in games where USC just ran out of gas. Well, that won't be happening anymore. Leon brought up the 2001, the Sonny Bird year. God bless you, Sonny Bird. Although, being in South Bend and watching that game, SC was so close. If you guys remember that game in 2001, and it was towards the end of the half, and I forgot who the punter was, but he got the great idea to try to do a fake punt inside our own 30. And that was just the end of it because good old Sonny Bird, 1 yard to cloud of dust Sonny. It was a brutal game, rainy, dismal South Bend game. And
sounds like South Bend.
God bless you, Sonny, because I'll tell you what, he in a year that we really struggled, he was really that tough guy. A lot of people get mad at Petros, but he got to remember a lot of Petros, the way, like if you remember when Petros played running back at SC, he never went down. They'd have always, even when it ran right into the line, he would never get tackled. Never. They'd have to blow the ball dead. That was Sonny Bird as well. It was like this old school fullback playing tailback at USC. And I love Sonny Bird. That was a great year. Not record wise.
Yeah. Hey, memorable. Clearly memorable.
Well,
so
we got 2 calls on our call-in show, and we appreciate you guys. We are building something here. Don't worry. I know they'll come. The calls will absolutely come. Remember, you don't have to have some, great amount of knowledge. We've had some great calls over the years, but I'm just as happy with like our first caller called in and just threw a question at us and listened offline. The idea here is just to give you guys a voice, and then we'll do it every Wednesday. I know that's going to catch on. You guys, we'll see you here next Wednesday at 6 p.m. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to talk about. Ryan, is there anything else you could think of besides the very hot? I don't know what the score is for the Dodgers, but they're 7-0 start.
Whew, red hot.
Red hot. So go Dodgers.
Losing right now, 5-3.
That's all right. Listen, we're late inning spectacular. We're at home.
Yeah, it's only 5th inning. You got time.
They'll pull it out. They got plenty of time.
I'm also realizing how like dirty my hat looks compared to yours. Like I have a completely different shade of blue compared to yours.
I have my game hat, which is not this one. This was my hat that I wear, out. And then there's my game hat. My game hat has all the, it's got those noontime game sweat line right here. When it's Chavez Ravine, it's like 90 degrees out. You're sitting out there in the sun, sweating your beer. Yeah, that happens. And then you got to have your on-air hat, Ryan. I'll get you an on-air hat.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Episode 2 here now in the books. Appreciate you guys. I know you guys have a ton of options. Do us a favor though, if you're still here, there's 170 between the 2 channels. Guys, give us a like, a thumbs up, so they'll go out to more people if you've enjoyed it. Plus, also, if you want to see more of this every Wednesday, and then Ryan's bringing seems like daily content almost to you guys. It's probably gonna heat up.
Try it, yeah.
So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. It's free. It's fun. We appreciate it. Love all you guys coming in. Until next Wednesday at 7. Sorry. I used to do 7. Next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We'll be
7
here.
Mountain Time.
7 Mountain Time. What would be then? It's going to be 9 Eastern Time. Come check us out. This week, do you think we expect any more? I think we'll get one on Saturday, guys. A couple birdies have told me that we have a local running back that looks like they might be leaning our way. So
feels
get
promising.
excited. Get excited for that. All right. We'll see you guys all next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all.